What's up, audit fans? Online exams can be really daunting exercises. You're wondering if your technology is going to work. Am I going to be able to answer the questions? What is the best way to lay out the questions? So today I'm going to go through my top tips to help you in your online exams. Let's get into it. Welcome back to my regular subscribers. Hi, I've had shout outs from people in Tanzania, Somaliland, Pakistan, Nigeria. So wherever you are, hi and thank you for watching. My name is Amanda. I teach auditing to undergrads at a major Australian university. I've been doing that for almost 2 decades now. And on my channel, I love sharing information about auditing, about sitting exams and joining the accounting profession. Now, we've seen a huge uptake in online exams, whether that's a take-home exam that you submit online through your learning management system, a timed exam where there's a countdown clock inside Blackboard or Canvas or whatever your learning management system is, and I'll abbreviate learning management system to LMS from now on. Or it could even be a proctored exam where you add a browser extension to your web browser, whether that's Chrome or Firefox or Safari, and somebody is essentially watching you through your webcam and listening to everything that you do during that exam. And I know that that process can be really daunting. You think, is my technology going to work? Is somebody actually watching me on the other end? And with these invigilated or proctored online exams, often there are two choices. Universities will have a live person sitting on the other end watching you. So at any point, you might hear something from your speakers, "Oh, please stop doing that. Can you show me what was that noise?" But a more common option amongst accounting faculties and professional associations is what they call AI invigilated exams, where the system just records you doing your thing, and then later it runs algorithms over the exam recordings to determine if there's any breaches of academic integrity rules or any academic misconduct. So once you've got yourself set up for your online exam, you want to make sure you test your technology, make sure that it works. Often your institution might provide a practice test for you to do just to make sure you understand how to log in, set up the proctoring, show your ID, all of that. Then it's time to actually sit the exam. Now, just relax. Try not to get too stressed out about the recording watching you or someone watching you on the other end. Just imagine that you're in a room by yourself doing the exam, and I'm going to share my best tips to help you get the most out of the writing time in that exam. So let's dive right in. The first thing that you're going to want to do is read the question really carefully. The number of times I see students write stuff that I didn't ask for just means 0 marks. So read the question really carefully. As you're reading the question, if you see the question ask you to do something, identify significant risks, justify your risks, make a risk assessment. As you're reading the question, I will often put those key tasks in the box as some headings. So identify risks. And then if it says a number, 3, then set it up so you can have number 1, number 2, number 3. The next part might be provide your risk assessment. So you might just leave a heading there that says risk assessment. And that way you started structuring your question before you've even really started thinking about what your answer is going to be. Because the biggest mistake that students make is they see a keyword and then they just start writing and they don't remember to answer the rest of the question. So if you can read the question, pick out the key things it's asking you to do, and then structure those in some headings. You can delete those headings later if you're writing and you don't need the headings, but the headings act as prompts as you're starting to type your answer, not to forget certain information. That's really critical. My second tip is to expand the response box. When you go into your exam, no matter what learning management system it's in, the response box will look quite small, but there'll actually be a little corner that will allow you to drag and expand the box so that you can see more of your response. That saves you from having to arrow up or scroll up to try and read your entire response. So that can be really helpful. That'll help you lay everything out, see where you are, and make sure that you're not doubling up on saying something or missing out. So expand that response box. My next tip is about making it easier for me, the assessor or the marker, to read your response. When we see responses that are just sentences and sentences and sentences of text in a big block, it's really hard to read, right? Now, of course, we don't have to read your handwriting, so there's time saved in not having to decipher handwriting. That is great. But when we see large slabs of text, it's hard for us to assess whether you've met the criteria. So use blank space to your advantage. Write a sentence or 2 sentences and press return, start a new paragraph on a new line. Another option might be to use bullet points. I really love it when students use bullet points because bullet points make it really clear where one idea ends and another one starts. If the question asks you to make a list, 5 of something, 3 of something, 4 of something, then use the numbered list option to help you there. So you can, usually it has like a little, next to the bullet point option, there's a little number option. So you can either use the automatic numbering or just number them yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'll make it, again, much easier for me to see that you've addressed 5 points. If I've asked 5 and I can go, yep, tick, 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 a lot faster than trying to read 5 points out of a paragraph and go, oh, is this sentence part of point 1 or point 2? So make it easier for us to help you get the marks. That leads on to my next tip about how much to write. And that's always a question I get asked a lot. But how much should I write for this question? And unless the question says, or it says, this is worth 2 marks, this is worth 3 marks, this is worth 4 marks, you might get a larger question that's worth 20 marks or 30 marks or 10 marks. I don't give any questions that are sort of 30 marks, but I see that quite a lot in professional qualification exams that ask you to do a number of different things in a number of different steps. I tend to break it down a little bit for university students, give you a bit more scaffolding. But if there's a question worth 8 marks, then look at what the question is asking. It might say, make an assessment and then justify. Now, typically, the assessment is worth 1 or 2 points. Then, any points after that, I will typically say it as a guide, 1 point for 1 argument or 1 sentence. So if a question is worth 6 marks and it asks you to agree or disagree with something, I agree or I disagree should be the very first thing that you write to make it really clear what your position is. Then, if it's worth 6 marks, write 5 different bullet points to support your particular position. And if you set them out as bullet points or as numbered points, I can go, yep, that point's 1. Second point, correct, 2 points. Third point, yep, that's great. 4th point, great. 5th point, great. And it's much easier for me to allocate marks. And, if you've got it 1 point per mark, that's a really great way to think about how much to write. Because remember, in these exams, these response boxes are often set for you to allow up to 10,000 words. For a 6 mark or an 8 mark question, I don't want you to write 10,000 words. The box will often have a title of like essay or long response. Don't take that literally and write an actual essay. Just think about the number of points and the number of marks allocated. 5 marks, 5 bullet points or 5 key sentences or key arguments to make. The next one is for all of those who have open book electronic exams. And certainly as an industry across higher education, we are recommending that best practice in an online exam is an open book exam for audit, because in a real life audit, you've got access to the auditing standards, you've got access to your colleagues. So a closed book exam isn't a really great realistic approach, but it depends on your institution. They may have a closed book exam or they may have an open book exam. So if you're having an open book exam, the key is organization. Find out, is the open book including electronic notes or only paper notes? If it's electronic notes, organize your notes into one large file. One document is easier than 20 smaller documents, and then typically you can also Control F. So if you remember some keywords, then you can Control F for subsequent events or Control F for significant risks, and that'll help you get to that part of your notes a little bit faster. So one file is often recommended, and you can have it either in Word or as in a PDF. For my students, I don't allow PowerPoint or other forms of notes, but they can have Word documents and PDF. Now, if you're only allowed paper documents, or if paper notes are your preference so that you don't have to flick between different windows, And the key is organization. I've got another video about how you stay organized for open book exams, but it's having the content organized in sections, having colored tabs or flags, or little sections in your folder that allow you to flick to that information really quickly. I always try and have a cover sheet on any open book notes. So for that section, I will have one page that will sort of be the summary and then can help guide me to more detailed notes if I need them. That summary will also include the standards. What are the key standards for this section? So that if I need to go to that section during the exam, and the question also says I'll refer to some standards, on my cover page for that topic area or that section, I've got the key standards already listed out. So I don't have to think, oh, what standards are they? So having those open book notes and paper notes organized is really important. If you've got both, and if you have the opportunity to use both, then make sure that you know what is in what area. You might have just your auditing standard notes electronic and your theory notes and practical application notes on paper. That will stop the confusion of, where did I put that information? Is it in my electronic notes? I can't find it. Oh no, is it in my paper notes? So making sure you understand which notes are available where. Now, in some exams, you will have access to your audit standards online through the web. So in an online exam, we can give students the opportunity, or we can, as a subject coordinator, whitelist certain websites. So I can make the auditing standards available to my students. That might be the case in your exam. If that is the case, then make sure you know how to navigate that website, where to find that information, and how to go through those PDFs. Because if the first time is that in the exam that you look at that website, that's going to be really scary. So do that pre-work first. My next one is time management. I think I've talked about this in my exam videos before, but keeping a track of time is so important, whether the exam is on paper or electronic. Look at how many marks you should spend for how many minutes. So for example, my exam is 60 marks and it's 120 minutes. So for 1 mark, you should spend 2 minutes. Don't spend any more time on a question than you've allocated. You might start by putting out those headings. And sometimes even those headings can get you marks. So put those headings, like I mentioned in my first tip, put down a few thoughts. So make your thinking visible, just some ideas. And then if you can't answer the question, move on. Don't waste time. If there is time at the end, go back and look at those questions again, but really keep an eye on the time. You don't want to miss an easy question later on. An important thing to ask your coordinator or your lecturer is it important to do the exam in order? Sometimes audit exams are written like big audit case studies, where something from question 1 or question 2 becomes important in question 5 or question 10. So ask your coordinator whether it's important to actually do the questions in order. If not, you might choose to do the questions you feel most confident about first, but always remember to keep an eye on the time and move on once you've run out of that time. Come back to it later. My very last tip for you is to edit. If you have time at the end left over, go back to your questions and edit them. All right, look at your responses and say, okay, should I put this on a separate line to make it more clear? If there is a key judgment that you make or a key piece of information that you're conveying, think about adding it in bold or underlining it or highlighting it. These are all tools that are available in modern LMSs, and you'll see it in the response box. You'll see a little menu bar at the top. I'll give you an example here for Blackboard where it's really easy to just bold something, a keyword, a critical word. That'll help me as the marker know that you know this is important. Obviously don't highlight your entire response, but go back and edit and think about, oh look, is this really important? Now in a lot of professional exams, if we ask you for 3 of something, we only mark the first 3. So if you write 4 responses, then your 4th one is wasted. You might write 4 when you're preparing your answers, but when you go back to edit, look at those and say, okay, which are my strongest 3, and put those as the first 3. Because if it's like my institution and like our professional association exams here in Australia, if we ask for 3, we're only marking the first 3, and your 4th one, you're trying to hedge your bets, but we don't actually mark those other ones. So be really careful and think about editing your responses. Make sure everything is clear and understandable. My last tip for online exams is to click the save button regularly. That helps you save your progress, and if you run into a technical issue, then your response is saved. If you're still writing in a long block of text, it might autosave automatically, but I would click it every so often just to be absolutely sure. You don't want to miss out on marks because something didn't save. Now, a common final thing is what happens if you have technical difficulties. Make sure you have the instructions that your university or your professional association has provided of what to do in case there is a problem. It might be, if you're using ProctorU, for example, there is a little button to click to get access to the helpline. Always take a note of when you might start having a problem. Write down on a piece of paper, I'm starting to have technical difficulties at this particular time. Because sometimes the response times from the online proctoring company or your university's helpline might be a bit delayed. So you want to be able to measure exactly how much time you might have lost due to a technical difficulty. After your exam, if you have had a technical difficulty and it's been a significant delay, it's been 10 minutes or 15 minutes of lost time, make sure you look into your university or your association's process for applying for something that they usually call special consideration or technical issues. This way you can record and report to your subject coordinator that you had a problem with your system. I often say to students, if you get kicked out of your online system a number of times, keep a note of how many times. When did you get kicked out? What time did you get back in? If the proctoring system goes down, I will often ask students to use their phone to take a screenshot of what time that the issue happened so that I can get some accurate information to either give them another exam, give them some special consideration, or get them back just to do a specific portion of the exam. We know that technical difficulties exist. The key is to stay calm, relaxed, and have a plan of what to do if you do encounter any technical issues. But make sure that you get in touch with your lecturer or your subject coordinator or your unit chair if that does happen. So I wish everybody the absolute best of luck in their online exams. I know it's scary, it is a little bit daunting, but this does seem like it's going to be the way of the future in doing online exams. Now, for those people who have done a few online exams before, if you have any tips to share with our community about how you've tackled online exams and your best advice for students, then I would love for you to share those in the comments. That really helps build our learning community. So thank you very much for watching this video, sharing your best practice in online exams. And of course, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll chat to you next time.